Hello, my name is Mae Whittick and welcome to Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening Woman. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. Who is the awakening woman? She's the woman who's seeking a greater possibility in her reality and looking for solutions. She knows being awakened is not a lofty ideal but a necessity. If she can transform herself, she can change the world. Her conversations will introduce you to talented women who will speak to your spirituality, your sensuality, and your soul. They share their stories and explain how they are in service to the world. So let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. This is an episode that I've been wanting to do for a couple of weeks, and I've managed to avoid it by just not doing anything at all, and also honouring the reasons why I needed to take a moment to really think about what was happening. What I wanted to talk about was something that I have been experiencing, and to an extent I am still experiencing. And as with anything, when you have these moments of deep experience, you feel as if it is the most catastrophic thing that is happening to you, and also that it is happening to you and you only. But having reached out to others and spoken to them about what I have been experiencing, of course that's not true, and we all take time to fold into ourselves to try and work out what's going on, I think, or try and experience what's going on, or hoping that if we sit it out that there'll be some sort of end to it. And of course there is always an end. Nothing goes on forever. It may repeat itself, it may come back in a different shape or form, but there's always a re-experience. But it doesn't have to be like a perpetual place of pain to sit. And what I'm talking about really is, I maybe haven't been overly explicit in the episodes on here about the details of what I've experienced, and maybe in a way I've bypassed certain things. But with all of us who are wanting to move forward and have a greater experience of life, with all of us who have a feeling that we can do more and be more, that we've got greater ideas that we want to see for the way that we're living, for businesses that we want to do, for projects creatively that we want to see in the world. What we don't always take into account is it's not just a question of doing the thing, which of course is pivotal if we're going to do the thing, but it's also the part of ourselves, or the parts of ourselves, that we have to outgrow. And the parts of ourselves that we have to outgrow often are attached to other people's expectations of ourselves. And it's often a uncomfortable comfort zone to stay in those places and be the person that we've always been. We can talk about the things that we want to do in theory. We can even begin to do them and start to see a level of success or achievement, depending on what it is that you're creating and what success looks like to you. For me, putting out these podcasts for almost the 2 years that it's been going now has been a success for me. Many of the times when I've been creating the episodes, it has been in spite of many things going on in my personal life, that having the podcast to focus on has actually been a welcome relief, just channeling the part of me that's still focused into that. What I haven't or hadn't taken into consideration is, should anyone choose to look online, be it on my website or social media or wherever you want to see where the previous episodes are, which there are now over 70, there it will appear that, I've done a lot and I have done a lot. But that consistency and that level of content then creates, in someone who's looking at it, particularly if they're not doing something that they want to do themselves, they will immediately put themselves in a diminished position by comparing themselves. And it's one of the downfalls we have of the ability to be able to peek into what people choose to publish about their lives, because most of the time we're just going to put out the highlight reel and not really talk about or display the times and the moments that we're going through that are trickier, present company included in that. But in order for me to be authentic and create this her platform and in the way that I want it to be, I've had to push through many. You can hear what's going on in the cars in the background. I've had to push past many self-defeating opinions I've had of myself. And inch by inch, I've managed to move forward and past that. And there's still a lot of that there. There's still many remnants of that there. And one of the clearest ways that was displaying itself to me was that there were still a number of people in my life who just didn't. Apologies, it's school time and I'm sitting in the park, so we're having the kids working their way back home. While I was pushing myself forward and also bit by bit pushing myself through my own defeating thoughts about myself, my own levels of worthiness about being able to stand up and create a platform. That was chatter that was happening within myself. But in having that chatter within myself still present and still that I gave precedence to a degree, less and less, but it was still there, it also made room and it also left a space to attract people in real life who were able to come and actually voice those opinions to me in no uncertain terms. Basically, they were able to say what it is they thought that I was wrong about what I was doing. They were able to say reasons why it didn't seem like a good idea, why it seemed foolish, why I should be doing other things. And I made a decision, pardon me, and in a way the decision was made for me, because it's not possible to rise up when you have that in the background, either within yourself or echoed in the voices of other people that you choose to have in your life. Be that, and it's usually harder because they tend to be people who know you the most, or have known you the longest, or know you the most up until the person you've been presenting in a certain way. so that when you choose to say, I'm going to create this international platform called Higher Energetic Resonance for the Awakening Woman, I'm going to speak to women across the world about their offerings, their spirituality, their sensuality, their soul. I'm going to do a podcast. Then and building from that, I'm going to create a membership site. And, I worked with Her Life Academy, and the uptake of that was good initially, and then it fell off. And I've had to take a moment to realise that I need to relaunch that. And that is not anything other than an indication to me that I needed to tweak what I was doing in the way that I was doing it. The idea is still valid. I believe in the idea fully and wholeheartedly, and it will always stand. However, and the thing is, as well, when I think about the people that we hold in high esteem within the celebrity level of people who've made accomplishments in business and entrepreneurship, most of them will have launched some sort of endeavour throughout the course of their working career that was launched or spoken about with big fanfare that isn't mentioned anymore. Because not everything that you do works, or works the first time, or the 7th time, or the 50th time. And it means that you don't stop. And it's about looking at the way that you perceive failure, or what failure is. And for those who are not trying, the things that you do try and don't work out hot out the gates, give them the opportunity to point out to you how invalid your ideas are, how ridiculous and how stupid your dreams are. And if they catch you at a low point, you can really buy into that. And as for that reason, I really had to eliminate people from my life, because I realised when I sat down and thought about the conversations that we'd had, very few of them, if ever, were supportive. There was such a lack of understanding of what I was doing. There's an air of incredulity as to who do I think I am that I should have such an idea and then follow through with it. And there were other areas as well, but what it really showed me is that when I was around these particular individuals, how much of myself I hid. Because to be the full version of myself that was starting to be addressed and recognised within the community that I'm working into and having connections with and growing and feeling such a sense of a newer self that I didn't even think was available, let alone possible, to then start to move into that space and start to expand into that, and then to then be around people who don't even realise that that's possible and see you as a percentage of yourself, means that either you spend your entire time defending yourself or you just hide yourself and you come from the smallest point. And I saw that was happening, and when I shrunk down into that small Carol, I was weakened. I had very little strength to speak from, and something had to give, and it meant that I had to walk away for the sake of moving into the life that I wanted to live, I was going to have to cut away, and I was going to have to cut away and think that and appreciate that this could be a lifetime severing of a relationship or relationships. It's always, what has also been interesting has been, if you give somebody the opportunity to really open up and say exactly what they think about you, sometimes the truth is, what the reality of how little someone has, how little faith somebody has into you is mind-blowing. It for me, it literally took my breath away. When it took my breath away to the point I would be sitting open mouthed listening to what was happening. And also how people that I had assumed had my back when I wanted to have a conversation about opening up and telling them about something that was happening in my life, how invalidated my thoughts and opinions were, which seems, for someone who has a podcast, and that anyone would think that of you, but it was true. And what has really hit home over the past couple of weeks has been, now that I've come away from that and allowed the feelings and the tension that was in my body that I felt I had to hold in order just to kind of maintain a position of that's not who I am, and a stance of strength, or just a stance of staying still while the wind blows, while you're being kicked. It felt like an onslaught, a physical onslaught. It was an emotional onslaught. And to come away from that and then just allow myself to just relax and take time for the reality of where I'm at now to just sink into the body. Then the second wave has been grief of sorts, has been a moment of, or moments of replaying, and try not to do it too much, but just replaying exactly what it is that happened, and that it did happen, and that the way that I felt about what was happening is a full and honest reaction. And then allowing it to come out of my body in whatever way that it does. I'm lucky that I understand how energy moves, and that I have practices that allow me to do that and get through it and appreciate what it is. So it's been painful. Healing is something that you can understand why people want to bypass this, because it's almost like, for me, this experience has almost been like, let's just go through this again, and is just allowing the reality of the realization of how toxic the situations were, how toxic the relationships were that I had sat in for years, and also realising that it actually wasn't news to me, really. There were always signs, and there were always indications that I wasn't being heard, I wasn't being respected. What I was doing was almost a point of... People got a lot of, and I suspect still do, a lot of satisfaction from the fact that I've had a difficult year, and that's hard to take. But it's true at the same time. It's hard to take, but also it's easy to see why some people will enjoy you going through your tough times, because it takes their mind off what is or isn't happening in their lives that's causing them pain. It doesn't make it any easier. And what I've had to really ground into is I have to ask myself why I left myself open, where I left myself open to that. Because if I hadn't had a little bit of that doubt within myself, then I wouldn't have allowed that on some sort of level, consciously or not. So there's been a period of great reflection, introspection, and mourning and grief for the end of certain cycles, certain relationships, and who knows, in the future people may evolve forward and there might be a way that we can be connected again, but it will have to be on the terms where I am coming from a place of respecting myself and just feeling that I am around people who have my best interests at heart and want to see me thrive. And this is also another new thing for me to learn, is my ability to reach out and ask for help. It's always been presented as a form of weakness to say that you're struggling or say that you need help, something's not working out, you've lost, you need somebody to talk to, because it's you get up, you go forward, you be that strong woman. And I learnt to put on a game face very early on in my life as a child, so that it looked like everything was always going okay. However, that's not been the thing that served me in the best way, because pretending that everything's okay all the time and making it seem and appear that it is okay can work up until a certain point, until it really, really, really is not okay. And then you need to reach out and ask for help. But then if you have not exercised the muscle of reaching out and asking for help, it feels like the most devastating and embarrassing thing to do. And this has been something that I've had to look at my understanding of what it means to ask for assistance. And going forward with what I want her to be, the podcast and everything that will come out of it, it can only happen if I work with other people. I'm doing it all on my own, and it's good until something happens and I get overly busy or as I've had in the past few days, flu, low feeling, and just needing to have just extra rest, and not really having that much of a voice either in terms of being able to speak coherently, and without having an additional set of hands or someone who can then take over where I'm not able to do, for a week or two, then that keeps everything moving. But it's being able to ask for help, it's being able to set myself up in a way that's clear and concise so that I can hand over what needs to be delegated, and also trusting that there are other people out there who are skilled and also who care enough about someone else's project that they want to keep it at the level that you've built it up to be, or even that they may be able to add another flavour to it so that it can get better, another perspective. It's very easy and doesn't really help in the long term trying to do it all on your own. Nobody does it all on their own, even if it's their name on the tin. It's just not them. So my learning from these couple of weeks away and what her's going to be going forward is for me to be steadfast and really clear in what I've created, and to congratulate myself and realise that I've come a lot further forward than I have given myself credit for, or allow myself to have credit for. The evidence is there, it's not even just talk now. And that's a space that I need to live from, is I've created this thing and it's not going anywhere. And as I get stronger in the belief of what I've done and how clear it is to me, and more clear how clear I am about myself, I have to just ignore the naysaying part of my mind, to erase that imposter syndrome, to stop looking at the mistakes that I've made or am still making in terms of identifying myself with them. I'm not my mistakes, I'm a person who's making some, because there's a greater part of me that's creating something good in the world, that's actually helping people and will continue to help people, and going forward will create ripples of assistance in ways that I won't even be able to comprehend. And that's what I think this episode's about, is just me taking a moment to turn the mic in on myself. I'm looking forward to moving up to the second anniversary point of her conversations, and going forward and past that, I have plenty of new interviews on the hard drive. I've spoken to some amazing women over the past couple of weeks, so there's plenty of content there. And I also have plans to travel again and experience a new environment, a new way of being, and also find out what I can create and learn from being in a different space, and a different side of me that becomes revealed. What I notice is whenever I'm in a different space, and this even happens with me being in different sides of London, it just connects with a different part of me, and it allows me to kind of unfold in a different way. And then when I take that into a different country, it's on a whole other level. travelling is one of the greatest loves of my life. And I've not even started to do it in the way that I would like to, but I'm getting there. So thank you for listening into this solo episode, and I'll be back next week with another interview. I have got about 4. I've not worked out which one's coming first, so I'll not put any promises through, but this is the beginning of October 2020, and by November we'll be at year 2 on Her Conversations, and some other exciting plans in the works as well. If anything I've learnt from this year or this past year that's been such a challenge is the parts of me that just need to be shared in order to move forward. The parts of me that I was holding on to for dear life out of sheer comfort that allowed people who were not useful for my emotional well-being or development to still have a hold and a voice in my ear and in my life, and that's had to stop. Letting go is not always easy, but it's often truly necessary. And if that's something that you're going through, I get it, I understand. Reach out, email me, send me a message on social media, put a comment below wherever you're listening to this. I'll see it. I get it. You know, we have to let go to move into the spaces that we can't even fully imagine because they're so far bigger than where we're at right now. And even in letting go of the people and the places that aren't good for us, there still needs to be a moment of respect and mourning and loving from afar, I guess. So that's me for this week, and I'm wishing you an amazing few days, and I'll be back again shortly.